Welcome to this latest video from Walton Robinson. So the property market enjoyed somewhat of a mini boom as a result of measures introduced by the government to stimulate the economic recovery. Joining me to discuss what might happen next to the market and the opportunities for home buyers and investors is Richard Ponton, Walton Robinson's Investment Director. Hello, Richard.
Hi there, how are we doing?
Good, very good. So, Richard, the property market's seen quite a flurry of activity in recent months. So what's going to be happening next? Keeping in mind, obviously, the big economic changes like the end of the furlough scheme and the newly announced job support scheme.
Well, there's been an awful lot of speculation on what might happen. As always, people are trying to second guess what's due to happen in the property market. It's not always obvious. We've always seen this boom that's come along. A lot of which has been fueled by the stamp duty changes and so on. Obviously, we're coming to a period where the furlough scheme ends at the end of October, and there had been a lot of concern about that and the sort of effect it have on the market, whether or not people are going to be made redundant when those jobs that they are due to come back to are no longer there. So there was anticipation of a blip in the market, or actually quite a sudden drop in the market. People have been quoting around 14% dip in the market there when the furlough scheme does come to an end. Obviously, the announcement of a new scheme replacing that, sort of a kind of scaled down version, offering employers further support, we're hoping is going to have the effect to kind of draw out this boom a little bit longer and give people the confidence or certainly give employers the confidence to keep hold of their staff, which can in turn allow them to stay in the market to buy property. And hopefully sustain the boom for a little bit longer.
So how will it impact on the difference or the balance between people buying to live in new homes and people buying to rent, so buying to invest?
Well, it's one of those situations, as I say, when you're relying on employment to allow home buyers to fund purchases with mortgages and so on. As soon as you start taking those jobs away, or you're seeing redundancies across the board, you will inevitably see a drop-off in home buyers. Essentially what ends up happening, people still need to live somewhere, and those that have moved out from home and are potentially renters at the moment looking to make that first purchase, it will inevitably delay that purchase, and they'll end up being in the rental market for a longer period of time. Obviously, more people renting for longer has a positive effect for landlords in that there is a high requirement for rental properties. So inevitably, those first-time purchasers that would have been snapped up by first-time buyers are actually going to be potentially still around for landlords to buy up, and rather than have those providing the first-time purchases for home buyers, they're actually in the market as provision for rental property instead.
So turning to the mortgage market then, what's happening there in terms of what's going on for buyers and investors, and what should they be aware of?
Well, I've got to say, I'm not a financial advisor, but we do have our own private finance team. I caught up with them sometime last week just to see what was happening, to get their point of view, because obviously we get asked that question a lot of the time from buyers and also sellers as well, who are intrinsically affected by what buyers are able to borrow. And yet there's been a lot of caution by the banks that they've been very hesitant to offer products where there is high loan to value with this kind of anticipated drop-off in prices. There is a danger of mortgage companies overstretching and lending too much. So when prices, or if prices do drop off, you get to a situation where the homeowner is left with very little equity, or even potentially a negative equity situation. So the lenders have been really cautious and have pulled a lot of their low deposit products from the market, and really a kind of 10% deposit is probably the lowest you could hope to get, and even then with fairly stringent requirements. But hopefully, as things start to stabilise and the risk becomes more apparent, and we understand what's happening with the property market in terms of values and so on, as that stabilises, as we get used to this new normal, as the unknowns of redundancies and the end of furlough schemes or job support schemes are unravelling, obviously the banks will come to terms with that and hopefully become more competitive as they understand the market a little bit more.
Oh, thanks, Richard. That was really interesting insight. Keep following Walton Robinson's social media channels for more videos about what's happening in the property market and how we're supporting home buyers, sellers, and investors.